Just because you're a go-getter in that sense and you're a quick thinker and you have ideas and you have your philosophies and you want to, bring something to the market and move it forward, doesn't necessarily make you a leader, doesn't necessarily make you someone that knows how to work with people, doesn't make you someone that knows how to communicate and treat people well. Leadership involves understanding the human behavior and the human characteristics. Welcome to the It Matters podcast. I'm your host, Walter Perez, and let's dive in as we help you grow your mindset and elevate your leadership. Hey everybody, welcome back to the It Matters podcast. Thanks for joining me in another episode. I don't know how you're doing this week, but I hope that you're like me and you're feeling like we're getting better one week at a time. I'm excited to continue to learn, to grow, and I'm always pumped to bring in you some thoughts and leadership principles that are going to help you wherever you get to lead. And so I really do hope that you're taking these, that you're applying them, that you're meditating on them, and you're figuring out what do you need to apply, change, or even teach others. And so let me know how it's going. I'm really committed to encouraging you and even at times challenging you on your leadership so that we can lead others better. And I know that there's so much great things that come out of this when we get to lead well. And so thank you for joining me on this episode. I wanted to talk about a topic that I think it's very important, and because sometimes we get this misconceptions of what leadership is. And I want to call this episode Counterfeit Leadership. The thing about counterfeit leadership is that it looks like the real thing, but it actually isn't. And so I wanted to give you maybe like 6 points today on things that might seem like leadership, things that we've kind of bought into that we believe is leadership, but it's not. It looks like it. It maybe kind of has the potential to be leadership. It can be at some point if it actually goes in the right direction. But generally speaking, if it doesn't have some intentional leadership development attached to it and understanding what it takes to be a leader, these points that I'm going to give you are counterfeit, and you may not actually be leading. You may just be taking a walk or just sitting there and maybe frustrated because you're not actually getting a following and you're not being influential and you're not making a change or an impact. And so I want you to think about this. So the first thought about counterfeit leadership is this idea of the front line counterfeit. What do I mean by that? Front of the line counterfeit. This is the idea where we get individuals that get to be at the front of the line and the front of the group, the front of the organization, the front of a project. They're potentially the first ones there, and they maybe tried it first, or they've kind of got there before everyone else, and so we automatically assume that is leadership. Now, the challenging part about this is that you take attributes like them being a go-getter, or they were fast and they were quick, and they were risky and they took chances, and so that makes them, in a matter of speaking, a leader. Not necessarily, because at the end of the day, we need to understand the true definition of leadership, and leadership at its best, in its true form, is influence. And influence is done to other people. And so for leadership to be raw and real, you need to have a following. You need to have people behind you. And just because you're in front of the crowd or in front of the group of people doesn't mean they're following you. It just means you got there before them. And so we got to be very careful and very quick to catch here that just because somebody's at the front, it doesn't automatically make them a leader. And so there's great things that can happen. And yes, a leader can be at the front, but they have to have a following. And sometimes we have solo workers, individuals, people that just want to be on their own and just want to get somewhere, but they don't want to bring anybody with them. So that's not leadership. Leadership always involves you taking a group of people or another individual with you that then it gets to not only enjoy and experience what you're doing, but you end up actually even encouraging them, influencing them, training them along the way so that they could be better or even go further than you have ever gone. So this this idea of front of the line counterfeit is very important to catch. It's not true leadership necessarily. All right, so that's one point. The second point would be the title counterfeit. And I've talked about this before. This is the idea that you believe or somebody believes that if you have a title, you are a leader. And that is just not true. Titles don't make the leader. And so we need to maybe even look at it from this other perspective, is that the leader makes the title or the position, we can call it as well. Titles don't automatically create a following. We think we do because we can, maybe with titles, we've inherited a group of people, but that doesn't mean that they trust you. That doesn't mean that they agree with you. That doesn't mean that they actually want to go where you are going. And so to believe in this lie or in this counterfeit that you have a title, so automatically you've been given a leadership role, is not very accurate, and you're going to set yourself up for some disappointment, because you need to make sure that with that title, you're going to bring up all these skill sets and trainings and leadership qualities that come with that you need to catch them up, or you will not be in that position for long, or you're just going to fall and trip and fail. And so it's important to not buy into this counterfeit that, hey, I don't have to do anything if I have the title. I don't have to develop myself. I don't have to grow. I don't have to learn. I don't have to continue to train myself in these qualities of leadership, or that I don't have to actually earn it. It's very important to realize that, as I said in the last point, that leadership is influence. And just because you have a title doesn't mean that it will be there forever. And maybe for a short term, in the transition time, maybe somebody will kind of buy into it because of the title. But then soon enough, people catch on and go, well, no, if this person doesn't have the right leadership qualities, I don't want to follow them. And so we do not want to buy into this idea of the title counterfeit. These counterfeits are very important to catch because they seem like the real thing, but they're not. And so we need to make sure we're aware of that. Okay, next point would be the management counterfeit. Now, you might say, okay, Walter, well, this sounds kind of like the title counterfeit. It kind of could be, but I wanted to point out management specifically because that's one where, more specifically, somebody has a greater responsibility. It's one of the most common roles out there that can be confused with leadership. Other roles we can kind of dissect it. We can kind of catch it right away and know that it's not leadership. Management is probably one of the ones that is the closest to leadership, to a real leadership role that can be misunderstood for leadership. And so management is somebody who understands processes and policies and systems. They know how to manage those type of things, but it doesn't necessarily equate to knowing how to lead and influence people. You cannot treat people as a policy or as a procedure. You cannot treat them as another, detailed plan. We need to use our influence. We can grab people, we can train people, we can develop people to know how to use systems so that they can be more effective. But we can't treat them as another system, because then it just becomes this robotic type of management and leadership, and that will never go far. People will get frustrated, people will get tired, people will feel undervalued, they won't be seen as people anymore. And that never goes well, especially in a job setting. People will just quit. People don't want to be under a management system that doesn't see them as something of as people that are valuable and leaders that can evolve and develop. And so we need to understand that management can come as a counterfeit, where it can come across like you're leading people, because typically under management system there is people, but we have to understand the difference, and we have to approach it differently. We have to treat people different, and we have to know systems is a one thing, procedures are one thing, but people are a completely different deal. And so understanding that is going to go a long way. You can be a manager and you may not be a leader. I'm sorry to say that, but you're going to have to face that reality. You can become a leader, but you're going to have to do a pivot and a shift where you're going to learn some skill sets that learn how to communicate with people that is very different in the way you the way you go about your management skill set. So think about that, okay? This is very important. The management counterfeit. Here's another one, the business owner counterfeit. This is where you're a business owner, so you're obviously a leader. Hey, you could start a business without any person or the help of any people. There's a lot of solo business owners out there that they know how to run a product, how to they know the paperwork and the policies again and procedures. They know the systems that how to run a business, how to bring a product into the market, or how to maintain a product in the market. And it could involve just you. And so just because somebody has decided to not work in the job world and become a business owner does not make them a leader. Now, it is in the interest of the business owner to learn leadership qualities, because the sooner that you realize that you're going to need some other people with you, especially if you want to scale, if you want to grow, and if you actually want to multiply, people are going to be the key thing to that, especially if you're serving other people. And so if you don't have great leadership skill sets and qualities, even if you don't have a staff or a team, it's going to come out in the way you interact with customers or clients. And so it's super important to make sure that we are making time and making it a priority to develop our leadership skills in these settings, so we could even do a better job than we could ever imagine. So we can bring that service level to another level, and be able to probably not only stick out, shine, but actually flourish in our business. And so don't buy into the counterfeit of a business owner that says, hey, automatically, because I have the business owner title, mindset, that doesn't mean that you are a leader. And so it's good to catch that. So then we don't just, put people on these pedestals going, oh, automatically they become leaders when they do that. That is not that simple. Leadership is still influence, and it still involves other people. And so think on that, because it's super important, because I know some of you are business owners, and maybe you think, I don't need to develop my leadership skills. I'm already there. I got other things to worry about. Well, if you don't focus on some of your leadership qualities and you develop them, eventually you're going to be the cap in the ceiling to your business. And it's not going to be anybody else's fault except for yours. But the great part about this is that you could be the problem, but you can also be the solution. And so you want to be able to think about how leadership training and leadership skill sets, how they apply in your business, so that you can actually get better along the way. The other one is another counterfeit point here would be the entrepreneurial or entrepreneurship counterfeit. Now you might think, well, this sounds very similar to the business owner. Very similar again, but the thing is that entrepreneurship is a little bit different. Entrepreneurs sometimes tend to be more catalytic. They tend to be the ones that want to pioneer, the ones that want to start something and move something forward. They're quick thinkers. They're always innovating, potentially evolving things along the way. They're not necessarily maintaining, and small business owners or business owners in general could be maintainers. They can also grow. Yes, I get that. I know that. But there are different stages in the business world, and entrepreneurs get to be very quick and want to move fast. And Just because you're a go-getter in that sense and you're a quick thinker and you have ideas and you have your philosophies and you want to, bring something to the market and move it forward, doesn't necessarily make you a leader, doesn't necessarily make you someone that knows how to work with people, doesn't make you someone that knows how to communicate and treat people well. Leadership involves understanding the human behavior and the human characteristics. And so sometimes as entrepreneurs, business owners, managers, all these things we're talking about, they're really good at understanding the thing, but not the people. And so just because you're an entrepreneur doesn't mean that you understand leadership. And so be careful to buy into the counterfeit of the entrepreneurial counterfeit that looks like leadership but may not be. So this is the thing though, please do not hear what I'm not saying. All these things that we're talking about can be leaders, but a lot of the time they're not if we don't have that mindset. And so we end up just kind of flowing and going with the flow of these different things we're talking about with the lack of leadership. And then we arrive, to our destination realizing actually I'm missing something here. Okay, so that's probably number 5, the entrepreneurial counterfeit. And the last one that I would want to bring up to you, that something for you to think about, is the I know it counterfeit. Well, what do I mean by that? The I know it means that, hey, I've gone to school, I've gone to university, college, I've read a lot of books, I love knowledge, and because I know more than so many other people, that makes me a leader. Well, I want to tell you that that is not necessarily true. Yes, being a book smart, having some experience and knowledge and understanding things and principles and all that can be really good and helpful, but that is not necessarily what makes a leader. You can be an ultra smart individual. You can have a high IQ. You can just be a bookworm and just be somebody that can suck information and just be a walking encyclopedia, a walking book that has so much a wealth of information. But we've seen it in the market or with other people that you may have lacked people skills, you may lack empathy, you may lack understanding, again, what I've said before, the human behavior and the qualities and the habits, and knowledge and information doesn't necessarily do it. And we've learned throughout the time that knowledge alone is just not power. You have to actually do something with it. And so I want to bring that up to make sure that we don't get stuck only on the one side of it. Yes, you've heard me say you got to read books, you got to learn, you got to listen to podcasts, all that. You got to learn from other people who have gone before you, all of it. But don't just be a sponge, be somebody that executes it out so then you can develop your leadership skills. So my point in all of that is that knowledge or knowing it doesn't automatically make you a leader. That is only one part, one key of it. And you need to bring in the other leadership qualities that make you a great leader to be able to lead well. And so, again, this was just a podcast to get you thinking about some of these lies or myths or counterfeits that we buy into, thinking that, well, that's leadership, and then we don't put any effort or we don't grow or we don't do anything to develop ourselves. And we know that it's important to always grow and learn, because if you don't, you become stagnant. And in fact, you don't really become stagnant, you end up moving backwards. And so we don't want to decay, we want to grow. And so think about these, okay? The counterfeits, the 6 counterfeits that I brought up today. There's probably more that we can chat about, but I wanted to focus on this, right? The frontline counterfeit, that people, just because you're in the front doesn't mean you're a leader. The title counterfeit, just because you have titles that have given you responsibility doesn't make you a leader. The management counterfeit, just because you're a manager that looks over a business or project or company doesn't mean that you understand how to lead people. And then the business owner counterfeit, being a business owner is a great thing, an amazing thing. But again, that doesn't necessarily make you a leader, because you can be a solo or a person in that. You could just be great at the product stuff, but not know how to lead people. The entrepreneurship or the entrepreneur counterfeit is important to catch too, because you might be a go-getter, a starter, a quick mover, a front of the line kind of person, but that doesn't necessarily make you a great leader or a leader overall. And then of course the I know it counterfeit, where it's just based on I just have so much knowledge about everything, so that makes me a leader. That's not necessarily true, because we want to be transformed and we want to influence and we want to impact people. And so when we do that, that's what really matters. And so all the stuff that we talked about play a part in this leadership journey, but we need to make sure that we have that figured out properly and we're not just relying on one of those things that I mentioned. I really appreciate all of you for joining me again. I hope that this gets you to think. It impacts you and it affects how you lead. And please share this with somebody that needs to hear it. Pass it on. Tell me what you think about it and how this is encouraging you, how this is challenging you, so we can continue to grow together. Because when we grow together, we get better, which is a very important thing in this leadership journey. And then what happens? It is a win-win when the leader leads well. And my desire is that we're all just going to continue to pursue this idea of leading well, because that matters. I'll catch you in the next one. Bye for now.